Hi everybody, welcome to the GEICO 15-Minute Moto Show. I'm your host, Ralph Shaheen. We like to find a lot of people on this show that have a real passion for motorcycling. For some, it's their day job. For others, it's just a passion they do away from work. Our guest today is Steve Park, who made your living on Sundays wheeling a car in the NASCAR Cup Series. But motorcycling, Steve, has always been a big passion for you. Where did that start?
Really, it started in my early stages of being involved in the old Winston Cup days. When I started driving full time, it was the first time I actually got a halfway decent paycheck and bought my first motorcycle from Rich Vreeland out of Pennsylvania. He was a friend of mine up north. And when I could finally afford a motorcycle, I talked to him and he had me one set up. Matter of fact, he sent it down to Mike McLaughlin's shop, which he's good friends with. So that was the first one I picked up, and I've been riding every year ever since, and pretty determined or riding quite a bit, probably starting in around 98 up until today. So it's been a great time. And some of the best things that I've done on a motorcycle has really been on the Kyle Petty ride. I know a lot of us know about the ride and what a great organization, and Kyle and his group do a great job. And it's given me the opportunity to travel across the country about 10 times on a motorcycle. So between that and accomplishing the Iron Butt Association, which was it was a 1,000-mile documented ride in 24 hours. And we had the police sign off in Mooresville when we left, and we drove down to Cocoa Beach, Florida, had lunch, and drove back all in 24 hours.
Wow, what type of motorcycle did you use to do that? I know you're a big Harley rider, but what were you on?
I was on my Ultra Classic, and great motorcycle, great Harley Davidson to ride across country, and also do 1,000 miles in 24 hours. So you had all the creature comforts. The only thing you didn't have was any protection from any kind of rain or anything. So, but those are one of those things where you learn to get underneath the bridge when it's raining real hard and wait for it to slow down a little bit. But otherwise, we're on them bikes riding.
Did it take you all 24 hours or what was the experience like?
You have to do it in 24 hours, and it has to be documented. So every time we stop for gas, we'd either find a fireman or a policeman or somebody post office that could sign off on a piece of paper that told the Iron Butt Association where you were at what time of the day. So it had to be within 24 hours. Couldn't be 25, but it had to be 24 or less.
Well, that's great. Now, a lot of people might be wondering, we see the Batteries and Bulbs logo behind you and on your shirt. You're not just out shopping. This is what you do now, right?
Yeah, it's funny, Ralph, because I used to spend a lot of my time, about 5 months out of the year, in Florida. And then when my son started school up here in Mooresville, I had to find myself a job. So I bought myself one, too old to race, too young to retire. And now I get the opportunity to see a lot of friends and a lot of old race friends that come into my store and buy batteries. Okay,
so tell me a little bit about how motorcycling stays a passion for you today.
It stays a passion for me today because I just enjoy riding. I mean, if I take a month or two off and not ride, when I get on that motorcycle, I wonder to myself, why have I not ridden? What was the excuses for me not to ride? And the majority of the time, it's because of kids. You know, it's school, it's stuff that they're doing. They become a priority more so than riding your motorcycle. But I can tell you what, every time I get back on that motorcycle, I tell myself, why haven't I been on this motorcycle? I find myself all by myself smiling for no reason other than enjoying motorcycling.
Are you on that same Ultra Classic, or have you changed that one out?
I have the same Ultra Classic. It's a 2003 100-year anniversary. It's had a lot of upgrades to it. It's a great motorcycle. And plus, I got a Road King Classic, I think you had seen, that was custom painted and custom built for me by Rotor Harley Davidson in Ohio. And that's kind of like my around town bike. That's a bike I love to jump on, maybe blow a wheelie or two and ride around town a little bit.
What's left? Is there anything you've always dreamed of doing that you haven't done yet on a motorcycle?
Boy, I tell you the truth, I've done so much on a motorcycle, so much more than a lot of people have done, that it always becomes a great conversation when you talk about these rides across the United States. Some of the things that I've experienced that I've never experienced before is like going through Flagstaff, Arizona, where you're in jeans and a t-shirt. By the time you get to the top of Flagstaff, you're in a heated suit. And by the time you get down the other side, you're back in a t-shirt again. And that's all within an 8 or 10 hour period. So that's pretty interesting. A lot of people have not taken off on a motorcycle in 75, 80 degree weather, rode till it was about 30 degrees, and then rode back till it was 75 again. So that was pretty unique.
Yeah. Where do you want to go that you haven't been?
Boy, I tell you, it's a great question, because I've been to so many different states that, you know, I can tell you some of the best places I like to go is like Sturgis, not just for the rally, but the riding out there, going to Mount Rushmore and stuff. Places a lot of times people go on vacation and they go to Europe or they go to places overseas, but places like Mount Rushmore, I think, is one of these iconic places to see, not only on a motorcycle, but any way you can. But there's so many things in the United States that you get to experience on a motorcycle that I really have no desire to leave the country, because there's still more things to see, but nothing sticks out in my mind that I haven't seen just yet. But something always pops up, or somebody always comes in and say, hey, let's go ride down to Phoenix or something.
You made your living racing at triple digit speeds, 200 miles an hour, in a NASCAR Cup Series machine for one of the legends of the sport in Dale Earnhardt, for Dale Earnhardt Incorporated. I mean, I can't imagine, you know, that had to be such a thrill on so many levels for you, and winning at the same time. What did motorcycling do for you when obviously the adrenaline rush every Sunday had to be at the highest?
Yeah, it really was. And the motorcycle was part of my relaxation. A funny story that I want to add is that, you know, most of the Cup drivers are underneath, you know, or under a contract where, you know, you don't want to be doing anything. Like, my contract specified I couldn't skydive, you know, I couldn't scuba dive. And there was a clause in there where I couldn't ride a motorcycle. It was considered dangerous. And it was a passion of mine. And I really had to sit down with Dale and talk to him and say, can we get this taken out of the contract? Because I ride to a lot of the racetracks myself. And he didn't know much about riding motorcycles, but he knew that there could be some sort of danger. And what he told me is, when he took the pen to scratch that out of the contract, he looked at me and said, Park, you better be careful. So, but that was pretty interesting, because, you know, guys not knowing that the inside of these contracts and stuff, there's certain stipulations. You know, when you got a $13 to $15 million sponsor, you're responsible to be able to get in that race car and not get yourself hurt. So, you know, you got to be careful. But again, on a motorcycle, with the experience that you have, or that I had on a motorcycle, I felt like I had the confidence in myself to try not to get hurt.
Yeah, and you had a big sponsor in Pennzoil back in the day when you were driving for Dale. Did you ever try to get him to go for a ride with you?
No, but he tried to get me to go for a ride on a horse, and I wouldn't do that either. So one horsepower scared me a little bit, but you know, 800 horsepower really wasn't a problem.
How many races did you ride to back in the day?
Boy, a lot of them. Some of the really unique experiences, I think Ryan Pemberton and Bill Davis, you know, we would come up with just a phone call, and it'd be like, we're going to go to Atlanta to race. Bring your motorcycle, because we're going to ride to Phoenix from Atlanta. So I'd load up the motorcycle and bring it, and we'd race Atlanta. And then the race after Atlanta was Phoenix. So we would jump on the bikes, and we would just spend the next 3-4 days going down to Phoenix. And, you know, instead of coming home and flying in these big airplanes and stuff, it was always nice just to hop on the bike with a couple of good friends and ride to the next race. So it's how you incorporated motorcycle riding within NASCAR, because you never really have a lot of free time, but you do have to travel to and from racetracks. And what better way than on the motorcycle?
Did you find yourself mentally, when you were riding the bike to another race, because that's a big part, is clearing your mind out? How did it help you mentally get ready for the next race weekend? Did you spend more time, like, say, the first 100 miles thinking about what you just did, and the last 100 miles thinking about what's coming up the next weekend?
Well, it's funny, you know, another great question, because I think it made me a better driver because I would debrief in my head on the motorcycle about the past week, the race I just ran, and then think about the future of the race that was coming up. And it always helped me because when you're on the motorcycle, all you can really do is think. You can't read a book, you can't do other things, you can't sit on your telephone. So it really helped mentally prepare me for the next race that was coming up, and also give me good notes to debrief and write down from the past race that we just came from. And I think overall it made me a better driver and a better communicator with my crew chief.
Now you have to, at this stage of your life, replace the thrill, the adrenaline rush of racing. You got responsibilities, you got a family, you got the business you're running. Does motorcycling help do that for you now?
It does. I mean, what happens is when you retire from NASCAR, it's so hard to go 200 miles an hour and then step away and never really get in anything that achieves those speeds like you had in the past. So you got to kind of find a tool that'll help you transition from full-time racer to a retired NASCAR guy. And the careers are kind of shorter in NASCAR than they are in maybe some other major sports. But, you find yourself retired when you're in your 40s. And then you find yourself trying to find something else to do because you're too old to race, too young to retire. So opening up this battery store was something that gave me the competitive edge, or kept me competitive, because any new business has to thrive and you have to work twice as hard to make it survive. And so it's given me that competition edge. Also raising my son, he's 11 years old now, and trying to keep up with him and keep the store going and enjoy my passion of riding motorcycles is something that, you got to try to balance and find time for all three.
Now, I know your son loves to fish and he's very good at it. Are you getting him on the bike yet?
No, I mean, he's funny because I've gotten pictures of him sitting on the motorcycle, but he's just getting to that age now where he'll be able to go for a ride, and I'll be comfortable with him being on the back of the motorcycle. So right now, 11 years old. When he was 6, 7, 8 years old, I don't think you'd really warrant putting a kid on a motorcycle, but I'm getting comfortable with that now. But I can't get him off the dock or the boat. He loves to fish.
All right, before we let you go, a lot of our viewers maybe don't know all the stories of when you drove for Dale. So I got to have you tell one. I know the NASCAR fans have heard them, they're legendary. Tell one of your favorites of, I don't know, either the Cotton Field story going to Darlington, or maybe when Dale called you the first time.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of great stories, and a lot of them, I've told, and I'm trying to think of some of the ones I haven't told, but one of the best ones I know that a lot of people don't know about has nothing to do with motorcycles, but it has to do with Dale. And he would pick me up at 6 a.m. and we'd go down on his farm. He had a 500-acre farm, and he had this really big bull that he was proud of. And I wish I could remember his name, and I can't. But we had gone down and checked on the bull, and the cows are in a separate field than the bull. And he told me, "Park, go grab his water dish out of his pen." I said, "Dale, I'm not getting in the pen with that bull." He says, "He's completely on the other side of the field. You can jump over the fence, grab his water dish, and get back over." So I was like, I'm from New England, so I don't know much about farming or anything. So I was like, "Man," I'm looking. I'm like, "Yeah, that bull's on the other side of the field." Long story short, I jumped over the fence, and all I heard was, it sounded like a freight train. And by the time I got the water dish, I looked up, and that bull was going 400 miles an hour right towards me. I turned around and ran, jumped back over the fence, fell down, sweating. I looked at Dale. I said, "That bull could have killed me." He said, "You damn right that bull would have killed you. What the hell did you do that for?" I said, "Because you told me." I said, "You told me to go get it." He said, "I just wanted to see if you'd do it or not." So I'm like, man, he was always pulling practical jokes, but sometimes you have to be careful because it could cost you.
Yeah. And he thought the motorcycle was dangerous.
Motorcycles are easy compared to trying to get the water dish for his bull. That's right.
Steve, listen, I appreciate you joining us. And listen, if you need batteries or bulbs, go see Steve at his store located on the River Highway here in Mooresville, North Carolina, Highway 150. He's always there. And just make sure you stay on the mat. It's an inside joke. He'll tell you when you see him. I'm Ralph Sheheen. Thanks for joining us here for another episode of the GEICO 15-Minute Moto Show with our buddy Steve Park. We have a new episode for you every week right here on Speed Sport.